Hey guys, this is a bit of a play around with ATVO and how we sort of make things work in regards to the broadcast in the backgrounds. And I know a few guys are wanting to tune in so that they can learn a couple of things on how to do certain things within ATVO. So if you are watching and have any questions on how I'm doing things, make sure you do um, post in the chat because I'll try and keep it up throughout. So I've just opened the ATVO program straight away and opened up the editor. I have done a couple of things. I've imported some images that I do know that I'll need for this theme, and also created a new theme. But I'll also be adding in some more images and that, as well as spreadsheets and showing how to use them as well. Inputs, driver pickers, and also event triggers. So I'll make sure, and also videos as well. I'll make sure I show how we make it all work. Yes, I can turn up my mic. It's usually pretty good for broadcast, so hopefully that might be a bit better. I'm probably not as excitable as I am when I broadcast, so that might be a bit better. But yeah, if you've got any questions on how to do things, ask. So I've just opened up, created a brand new theme. I've got plenty of themes I've got saved on my computer here, but if you're unsure of even how to do that, the start page, just new theme, and it's created this theme here which I've called AMR Super Cup, which is the series that we broadcast as part of our V8 Supercar online premiere series. First, most important thing to do is make sure you set the size up for the actual size you want. So some questions that have been asked is how do you make your overlays in 1080. That section just here shows it in 720 at the moment, so we'll increase that to 1080 by 1920. That now shows the overlays in full size, so that's how that happens with that. It's pretty easy. So what we'll do first, we'll create our first widget. I usually do widgets first, and I've also set mine up so that they start in full size. I've just been playing around with that. I don't exactly like it full size, which I might actually change that back to 75, which is default. And the other thing I haven't updated as well is in this section here, you need to set your font up as your base font, which we use on ours, Google font called Lato, and all our default sizes for our overlays are 24. So that's how I do that stuff. I also name all my widgets, keep them all very, very organized in regards to how the widgets and sub-widgets are set up, so that when I go to find them to use the buttons, when I go to use my buttons, I know exactly what I'm looking for. So that's how, or why I do it the way I'm doing it. So at the moment I'm just going to do our broadcast logos, so our corner logos that we have for each series. As I said, I've already uploaded all of my images that I'll need. Gotta remember what I've called everything. Got too many things on this computer with what I actually want and need and use, so bear with me. Let's find exactly which one it is called. So if you've got any questions throughout as well, make sure you just pop it in the chat, and I'll do my best to help you out. They are looking pretty shit right now, there's nothing there. Alright, now I know what one I'm looking for. So when you've got the option up the top here, design mode, which actually allows you to just quickly adjust and shape your graphics. The other buttons you've got up the top there, you've got a start button as well, which enables you to use an iRacing session to gather data from that session as it is happening. And design mode as well, when you switch that off, it will actually show up the base data as well. So that's all that stuff really means. Because I know that that's the size of that overlay, I'll just put it straight into the correct size and chuck her in the corner. So that's that widget done. Also create a scene so that I can remove it and add it as needed on this main screen. Now I can just get rid of this whenever I want. We're going down here to control, picking which widgets are being controlled by that scene. That's now removed from the screen, so I'll do some buttons for them later on, but I'll get a few overlays added in before we worry about buttons and things like that. So next one we might do is we might do the lap counter. So obviously that's the graphic that will show how many laps remaining or how much time's left in a race. The races that we'll be doing will be a timed race, so we'll just need laps to go. In regards to graphics, you can have it done two ways. You can have the full graphics done at 1080 for the correct size, so you can just chuck them straight in, or you can do them in the smaller size and actually put them in the position you want. Either option works. So now we've got the widget for the lap counter. I want to add a sub widget, which then I can control multiple different things with. This one will only have one sub widget because there's only one piece of data needed in this section. And now with the design mode and the editor function, if I want to actually position that sub widget, double click on the lap counter, it then does a design for that component, and I can place this exactly where I want it to go. So the next thing I need to add from there is the actual data into that square I've just built, or rectangle. If I say square, someone will correct me and say it's a rectangle. So I want to rename this as label lap counter. One thing I haven't done with the font, I need to go and adjust that in just a sec, but make the font the right size, which I might quickly do now. Change the data that we want to add in here. So we go data bindings, which is where you actually trigger the data that you want in there, and this is all the different data I can get from the following section, but we don't want following. Actually need to go back here to lap counter, go into data, all the different data sets that you can actually pick. So we've got followed, standings, warm up, qual, pits, radio, and the one we want here is session state, which actually shows all the data about the session that we are in. So we add a data binding, which I want to be lap counter, specialized lap counter. And with this little icon here, it means it's fully customizable, so I can edit what I want to come up at different points throughout. So we run ours with just lap 1 of 1 or whatever, and we also have to go, however many laps to go, and we show the last 5 laps to go when it swaps across to how many laps to go. So that's done in that aspect. We'll go down to display, we'll set it to center everything. That's now how it will sit. Something I also do as well is I sometimes will chuck in some data into the text box there so that you can actually see how it sits as well. But that's how that component works. So if I now turn the design mode back on, there it is working. So I'll now add a scene for that. Sort of show how the scenes work a bit better later on. I can add or remove that from the screen as I need, so I can actually go through now. So that's the broadcast screen as it would be in a normal race. Next thing I'll do, I'll add, I'm not sure which one we'll add next. What would people like me to do next? That's the pretty easy stuff. Might do my weather graphic. I'm not singing SI, sorry mate. Position ticker, alright, I'll do that next. I'll just quickly do a weather one so I can show you how you do multiple data sets in the same graphic and the same widget. So I'll do a header first. You can actually have 2 sets of data showing this in the same box, which is pretty cool to do. So just set up that sub widget. Just stick the logo for sponsor in that corner into the white section. Same deal again, if you double click on the sub widget, then brings up that section in the widget that you can then adjust to the right size. Make sure I've got everything the right size. One thing I have found, if you have a really big logo and then try and shrink it down using the overlays, using the software, it can sometimes make them go quite pixelated, so I have already pre-edited all the logos I need to the right size, but I will show how to add some logos in and images in as we go. So in here obviously we don't have a binding because we're just going to type in what we want. Make sure you're naming all this stuff's pretty important, because if you actually need to change something on the fly, you can actually find it a lot easier. I've learnt that the hard way. Also, naming them all properly as well makes it easier if you want to copy and paste information in. So when I go to use this again, I'll use this for weather and also for a pre-race preview, I guess you'd call it. So now I've got that sub-widget done. I'll add another sub-widget, which I can then use for all the data that will go into the bottom section of this graphic. No, you can't assign. I'll show you in a little bit. Can't even remember what I put in this. I think sky's the first one. Leave sky on the first one anyway, because that's one that I can show multiple things on, so I'll do that one first. Alright, so for this one here, we'll add in two data bindings into this. So we'll have the actual sky, and we'll chuck the humidity in there as well. So to do that, go to data and data bindings, and we'll add in two data bindings. Actually, just remembered I've got to change this here to session state, and then we'll add in the data. So we want two data bindings, one to be the sky, just so I all know it'll be always partly cloudy, and we'll add in the humidity as well. So now I've got two bindings over here. So how we want it to display text will actually be clear, or whatever it is. So we have the 0, then we want to have data number 1, Can't even spell humidity. Someone help me and spell humidity because I'm having a mental blank. There's a D in there somewhere. I can't spell for shit. There we go. So that's how that would display with having the two data sets together. Yeah, thanks Asai, you're a bit too late to the party, mate. Now you can add a margin as well. So if I wanted to move that over, say 4, just giving a bit more room there, or you can obviously add that in when you actually move the layout of that data set. So if you've got a label or a sub-widget set with the data in it and you move it, all of that information will go together. So if I wanted to move the data that I've got there in the weather sub-widget, I can move that wherever and that'll all go together. So whatever you've got enclosed together in a sub-widget will all go together. If that makes sense. Daniel, I think that's what you're asking. I might leave that one and I'll go and I'll show you how to do ticker style info and then I'll come back to the weather. Do you want me to do a ticker or the top 15 timing tower that we do on the left of our screens? I'll do a top 15 race, top 15, and I'll show you the difference between live and as it crosses the start finish line. So again, change the data to followed obviously shows the car that you've got on screen, but we want to have the standings. The other thing you can do is change position to live position. Yeah, if I moved, because I've got mine set up as a widget as the full size of the screen, if I was to move that, it would move the whole thing. So if I bring that back up, so if I was able to move it, because it's already full screen, it would move the entire widget. So yes, it would. But yeah, because I've got that widget set up that way, it won't. But yeah, if I set it up that I had that widget all as one piece that size, if I moved it around, it would move the whole thing. But yeah, because I've got all my graphics set up, thanks to Asaya, he's done it all nice and easily for me, sitting at the right size at full 1080, so I don't have to worry about where it's positioned because it's already been predetermined when we've actually designed the graphics themselves. So I'll do a top 15 counter. We'll do the actual race positions or the standings as they are, and we'll set them up as live, so they will update as the race changes. So I'll set up a header. So often the way with this depends on whether you want to design them and have them set up and then you can go bang and put them straight into here, or whether you wanted to design on the fly and adjust as you go. I guess is whether you do your graphics as the full 1080 before you import them in, or whether you just do the actual size of the graphics. I would say it would be easier to predetermine what you're going to do beforehand. If you actually do it on the fly, you probably end up with a whole heap of stuff looking like gobbledygoo and not making a whole lot of sense. So I'll quickly just do a header on this. Good old squeaky chair's getting another squeak going on it. Thought I'd fixed me squeak and now it's come back again. It's really annoying. I've been on the WD-40 and I think the chair just needs to get thrown out. This is actually Kirsty's chair that she had before we even got together, so it's about 8 years old. So I'm pretty sure it's done its dash. Not really. I mean, OBS is what you'd use to actually stream itself. This is more so that you can actually show what's going on in the race itself. Oh jeez, I can't even spell today. So there's that. Now I'll add in another sub widget, which we'll have as so I'll have that as position 1, and that's set in the right spot. This is where copy and paste works a treat. So OBS is what you actually need or use to stream the races, which I'm obviously using over here. But yeah, this is actually so that you can actually show what's going on in the race. So you actually have the on-race graphics. So you can show the position of the drivers and all that sort of stuff. So this is pretty crucial software if you actually want to make your broadcast look like a professional TV style broadcast, which this software has now been out since it was beta tested probably 2.5 years ago, which we were part of or Seb was part of the beta testing team for that. And yeah, ever since then we've been trying and wanting to use this, and yeah, now that we've got the creator, as soon as it came out, we were straight into making this work. Alright, so we're going to show the position of the driver first. That's obviously pretty straightforward what that will be. So we'll go to the data bindings and we want live position because we're going to use this as a live updated timing. center everything, and obviously change the font to black. Add in a label next for the name. The reason we name each label individually and uniquely is you can't have two labels the same. So I can't have a label called top 15 position 1 and then make another graphic top 15 position 1 for when I do a qualifying set, or whether I do something else, whether I do pit stop times or gains and losses or last lap or something like that. Each thing has to be done individually. Yes, they do work together. I'll show that soon. I'll show how that sort of side of it works as well. So I'll actually load up soon. I'll load up one of my overlay sets and I'll show how all the buttons work and how you actually make things work that way. In regards to having everything set at the right width, the overlays will tighten themselves up to actually fit. So if you've got a name that's too long, it will actually condense itself together. So see there, it actually cuts off. It will actually tighten up and fit into that gap so it won't stick out, which I'd only learnt semi-recently after I made Asira go and change all my sizes for everything. Thanks, Asira. Now normally on this one we do a gap to the driver behind or a gap to the driver that's in the lead, but obviously the leader there's no gap to, so been showing the current lap number. And same as we did before with that other, with the weather graphic. Just have lap, and that would show the lap like that. So you want to center it as well. That would look like that. So what we'll do next, we'll copy and paste that sub-widget, rename it to position 2. I can now just move that straight down into the right spot. Need to adjust the gap because we now need to have the gap data. I'm really looking forward to animations coming out because then we can go a bit crazier, so. And because we've got live data, we want to show the live gap to the leader. And I'm going to open this sub-widget up because we need to adjust the size of that and remove the lap information off. You can actually change in here how many decimal points as well you have. So if I wanted to only show 2 decimal points or 3 decimal points back from the leader, I can do that through this section here, but we'll leave it as it is. I'll play around with that in another section. That's how the live gap would look. Now obviously there's no point leaving it as that because at the moment we'll show the exact same information. So in your sub widget here, you've got your data and your data offset. If I set that to 1, that will show the leader in the first spot and then add the next driver in the queue to the second position. That's how you get position 2. So we'll do that for 15. So the 15th car will actually be plus 14. There's 2 ways you can rename as well. You can right click or you can just type into this section there. Now that we've got the sizes all set, I can just update the info as we go. a little bit of a slow, tedious process, but it's well worth it because it makes everything look so much neater and more professional as you go along. So let's see how that stuff all sort of works together. So I hope this is sort of starting to make a bit more sense for people that don't really have a clue on how to make it all work properly. Next thing I'll show after we do this, I'll actually do the ticker, because that's probably the next most difficult thing to actually make work. If you've got any other questions on the fly as well, make sure you ask. I'm more than happy to do my best to answer it. As I said in the description, this isn't the be-all and end-all. This isn't the exact way you have to do it. This is just the way I do it, because it's the way that I've learnt and played around with it. So, yeah. How much do we charge Asire? Sire and I work together on charging people, unless he actually wants to make them himself, but I know he'll get frustrated with it and decide to make me do it. There are a few free themes out there, but having a custom theme I think is the most important thing you want to do if you're wanting to actually make your broadcast look professional. You don't want to look like everyone else. You don't want to look like the TV. Exactly, you want to have your own identity and your own theme. So it's probably the most important thing is having your own identity, which, I mean, V8's online now. Anyone can see or hear V8's online and know that it's the big Australian broadcaster. So that's where making sure you have your own theme, your own identity, and doing everything yourself in your own way is pretty important, I think. Better thank Asire at Custom Image for making these for me. I know he's already going to work making new ones again. Or haven't you started yet, Asire? Or are you just going to wait until I finish these and then give me new ones? Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big fan of seeing real world broadcast overlays on a iRacing broadcast. I just don't think it makes sense. I think you need to differentiate yourself from everyone else and have your own theme, own identity, your own style, regardless of whether you think it looks good or not. Even something that looks a little bit messy, I think, is better than ripping something off from someone else. Sorry, this is taking a bit longer than I thought it was going to. It's a pretty slow process, but it's how I have to get it done. At least I can copy and paste and I have to go and make everything individually. Oops. Just moved the wrong one, but that's alright. Can adjust how everything's laid out in the theme as well, so can change all the data sets and how they all sit and work together. So we're about to finish the last one. So I'll do a ticker next so that you can see how the tickers come together. There's 3 different ticker types you can have in ATVO. Actually, what we might do, just save it. As I said, you can press the play or the start button up the top and actually have the proper data come through from an iRacing session on the fly. So I might quickly jump in a session and show how that all works. So I'm just loading up a session in the background. Sorry guys. That'll do. Obviously I'll set up this scene as well so we can adjust the scene while we're going. So I tend to make all my scenes all for the same sort of things all together. So if I have multiple top 15 towers, I'll have them all together in the same widget control. So if I wanted to, I could tick all of these boxes and just untick that. Will take everything off the screen. I only want to have the top 15 one at the moment because that's all I'm controlling. So it should come up soon and actually we'll show some live data coming through from the session that's loading up in a sec. Hope this is sort of making sense to people because I'm pretty good at confusing people. If I'm going too quick for anything, make sure you let me know. Or if I'm going too slow, let me know and I'll move it along a bit quicker. But making sure that you've got the right data set up here and then in your widgets is the most important bit. So we've got a session going now in the background. So if I press start here, close all these off, that's now showing live data from in the session. So that's all working. In the editor, it doesn't compress the fonts up like I was talking about before, but yeah, partly cloudy just for USI. It does show exactly how we intended everything to show, so gives you an idea that it actually is working. So yeah. So I'll close that session that's on in the background because sometimes it can crash ATVO if you've got too much going on in the background in regards to a session. But that's how that all works. That actually is working. Next I'll do ticker because as I said, tickers are probably the most complex thing to actually make work. And then I'll do a little mini leaderboard as well, the 4-car leaderboard that we show. Now here you want to make sure firstly of the right data set, of course, which is same again, standings and live position, because we want the ticker to update on the fly. We want to enable the ticker. We run a paging ticker. You can also have scrolling and static. So static shows the same sub widgets over and over again. The paging means the widgets don't move, but the data is updated, which is what we do on ours. And scrolling, obviously, you can set a sub widget up and you can have it move across the screen. Like most of the American style broadcasts, the NASCAR broadcasts do, they do a scrolling ticker. Formula 1 V8 Supercar uses the paging stick ticker. So V8 Supercar just do the 3-letter shortened version of the surname. Formula 1 the same with the short surname and just the time. So yeah, we use paging on ours. And our background for it, I'll just load up. So I was going to tell me I've still got the wrong ticker. I'm waiting for it. Now this one here, as I was saying before, oops. If I move the, I can move the data around that's inside this ticker as I need. But there's our ticker. I can set it wherever I want. So if I wanted it right in the middle of the screen, you could do that, which I don't think anyone would actually want to have a ticker in the middle of the screen. I actually set it about there. And then I want to add the sub-widget for the actual information. So sub-widget ticker. And what I want to do, I actually want to make that ticker sit in the right spot. You can't move these any further than where they sit, so they have to sit in the left-hand top corner. But you can make them the right size as in regards to sub widget, so that they will actually all interact properly together. You can set an offset as well to make sure that they all fit. So from there we'll start with what probably makes sense the most is the position. We want to actually set the data binding for it, so we want live position again, as we did with the last one we did. Update the label, ticker position. We don't have to do position 1, position 2, position 3 because it will do it automatically, knowing that we've got 4 sets of data which we set up before. I'll show again in a sec where we did that. Next thing we put in is the driver's name. If you're actually wanting to know what info you can put in, there is actually a data explorer and actually shows you all the different bits of data that you can put into the overlays as well. So it's absolutely heaps of stuff you can put in here, plus you can then also type in your own information as well. So you can have actually have a trigger set for a driver that comes in the pits or a driver that's sitting in the pit, so as soon as they enter the pit lane their info comes up on the screen, which is pretty cool. Which I'll show some of those triggers later on if I get a chance. trying to make two things with the same name. Just gave me an error. We've got live gap for this one, which is the live gap to the leader, which updates around about every 200 meters or so on track. Now, one thing I haven't adjusted here is the size of the font, because we've got it set at the default 24, but we can adjust that in the sub widget section. So there's our ticker at the moment showing nothing on it, because there's actually haven't set up what data set we want. As I said, we've got the four bits of data across, which is set up from that. And down here you've got the template, so we want the sub widget ticker to be the template, and there's our template for our data come across in there. Now it doesn't look quite right yet, so we just need to adjust the margin. There they are, all lined up in the exact same spot. There they are, all sorted. So that's how you make a ticker work. Nice and easy once you know how. What I might do the mini ticker that we use as well at the same time. Yeah, our Josh, our graphics are pretty cool. They're really, really nice. Thanks, Andrew Asai, who's in the chat there with you. He's designed them custom image concepts. He loves doing broadcast overlays, so he's more than happy to design some. He doesn't charge too bad as well for the designs. Does that make you feel good, Asai? I'm actually talking you up for a change. So do our mini ticker next. Same deal. We only have 3 items on this one. Because I want these to actually sit in the same spot, I'm going to turn that other ticker back on. And we can line them up so that they're in the exact same corner, so that they actually line up. Which they now are. Just update this data set as well before I forget. If I don't do it while I'm going, I always forget to do it, and then I get in the middle of a broadcast and scratch my head as to why nothing works properly. So double clicking on each different section will actually give you the option of being able to edit the different components as well. So making sure you make use of that is pretty important. There's not much in this ticker set, so now that we've done that last one, this one's pretty straightforward and simple. Literally nothing to it, just 2 items of data. I've made that way too wide. Live position once again. Just accidentally pasted the wrong thing, that's always clever. So I hope this is all sort of making sense to everyone on how it all actually works and comes together. Because I know I was confused for a long time, and there wasn't many guys out there that were actually understanding how to use it all and make it work. So now, the main reason I've done this is because I know there's so many people that have no idea. Rather than talk to people individually, if there's a little bit of a video out there that sort of makes a tiny little bit of sense, maybe some guys might actually understand it a bit better. So now I've got that set up. Add in what we've got as our template, which is there, and now we can adjust that margin again. And there it is there. As I said, it shows it's cut off. We might actually make that font slightly smaller. So I can actually go in here, change the size. So I'll go in sub-widget and change it in there. Just change the name, I think, to a bit smaller. That's all we really need. Oop. Really have boo-booed that up. There we go. Alright, so there's 2 tickers done. Now, as I was saying before, with the scenes you can actually add multiple things into control. So I'll add both tickers in there. And if I wanted to preview the 2 different tickers, there they are, both together, both turned off, both on at once. So now I've got them all together. When I go in and do my controls, when I actually make my buttons all work, I can then remove both tickers off the screen at the one time with only one set of data. So that's how that stuff all works. What should I do next? Might show how to make an input, make that come up on the screen so you can actually type in your own data and have it show up on your broadcast. So we use that for our commentators. We can also have messages come up as well, so I'll do that next. So what we'll do first, now there is a bit of a bug in this software where you add an input, it doesn't actually come up unless you restart the software. Grid placing, alright, I'll show grid placing. I'll do a grid because that's quicker, because I've only got 6 spots on a grid. So I'll do grid. same again, we want position, but we want, for a starting grid, we want the qualification data set, so the actual qualifying times is what we're wanting there. Now, I don't actually have the grid loaded in, so I'll show you how you import the image. These are all the themes I've been working on, so there's only a couple. So I always want to make these just static images. I'll show you how to make dynamic images as well, if guys want to know that as well, which is where you can actually set up, say, car manufacturer, which actually we probably will do in this. This being a Porsche series, we'll probably show it up. So now that we've got the grid set up, this one's a little bit different how I set this one up, because your buttons is actually where you really want to have your data, where you have all your info set up properly. I'll do the header first, because that's nice and easy. Yep, you can bring up an image with that. So yeah, you can actually bring up, what I might do, I'll cheat. We're allowed to cheat, aren't we? So this is the original, that wasn't expected. Maybe I won't bring that up. There we go. Just another theme to bring up. This is the V8 Supercar Online Premier Series original theme, which we've started to edit for the broadcast this weekend. And we've got the starting grid sitting there. I'll bring it up. We'll just clear all these other overlays off. The reason I'm rebuilding is I know now how to do things a little bit neater, and this was quite messy how I had it made up. But starting grid here, just double clicked on it, I'll go into one of the positions, so I'll just go into this one, and there's data for the position, driver name, the team, the gap, and the lap time. There's also a blank label there, which actually is linked up to the car image, which I've got a folder with each car linked up by their car ID. So Ford Falcon is car 61, will show up if the data set of car ID for that car will actually show that image. If it's car 60, if it's the Holden, it will come up as that. With the Porsche, when it comes up, it is car number 88. So all these cars in this series will be car 88 for the car ID, so that will pop up automatically when I set that up, but I'll do that as we go. But yes, you can. I don't know if it's necessarily essential to have the car manufacturer for Porsche Super Cup, because I'm pretty sure it says in the heading what it is. There's all sorts of things you can do with that. Oh, what am I doing here? Doing a great job here. So after I've done the starting grid and I'm doing a great job here. I've done the starting grid and I'll also do the results. I'll then go in and explain how you do buttons and make them all work as well, so that you can actually advance your data across. That's the header done. Damn caps lock. Is that the most polite you've ever heard me, Asaya? I didn't actually swear then. Unusual for me. So now that I've got that set up, add in my labels. So we'll do position first. We've already set up as the qualifying data set, so we don't have to worry about any other info. We just set it up as start position. And we'll adjust the color and the size of it, obviously, because we don't want it to be white on white. Probably go a bit bigger. Looks good. Now, one thing I haven't done yet, I haven't added in a spreadsheet, which I'll do now. We run a spreadsheet for our events with all the team information. So I'll just rip our one from our V8 Scops, which has all the drivers listed with their driver IDs. It's just a standard spreadsheet. It's saved as a CSV and features about 440 odd drivers in there. Just want to remove the row to the left, so we want to have one column, I should say. So I've got a header row, customer ID and team name. So that will now link up the customer ID, the driver ID number across to their team info, which is one of the things that took me a long time to work out and actually understand how to do. So now when I go into data and data bindings, we'll actually have info right down the very bottom now, data, team name. So I can now bring in the team info, that will show up. It's actually pretty simple once you know how, but yeah, that's how you actually get that to come up. In regards to having the team as well, we could actually probably seen, if you've watched any of our Premier Series broadcasts, you'll actually see that we've got team logos actually come up as well for teams, which you can do as well. I've set ours up so that the actual show linked back to the driver ID, so I've set up the driver ID with each team. So yeah, that's how that all comes about. Hope this is sort of all making sense. Sort of doing a pretty shit ass job of explaining what I'm actually doing, but if you've sat through this much, you probably will sort of know what I'm doing. Obviously there's no team coming up because it's come out of a spreadsheet, so I can't actually show that as a working info unless I go into a session that I've got someone in that team data. And this one won't actually show anything if in a session in this one, but I'll also chuck the gap back to the leader as well in there. For some reason it keeps on going, all the windows will pop up on my left hand screen. Used to do everything on my left hand screen, and since I unplugged my wheel I do everything on my middle screen now, so it's now a bit confusing. Alright, so there's that. So what we'll do now, we will copy and paste sub-widgets again, just as we did before. They're all positioned in the right spot. Again, do that data offset so that it shows +1. I do make all my scenes separate so that I can add and remove things as I want on the fly, so I can make sure things line up properly, but then remove them from my work position as well. Another reason I do that too is because it makes it easier when you set up your buttons as well. Because instead of when you want to remove a group of graphics off the screen together, if you set them up as a scene, you can set them all to remove all at the same time, just to save a bit of extra work when you're actually trying to make things all work together. So when I first did it, I set everything up as an individual scene, but I've started to not do that now. I group things together a bit better to save myself when I go and set up my remove buttons or my hide buttons, which some broadcasts doesn't matter how you do it. The whole thing with this is just to show how I do it, as opposed to being a right and wrong way. There's no right and wrong way. Might be some wrong ways, but there's definitely no right way as such. It's just how I do it, how I've made it work, and how I understand to do it. So let's just remove the wrong data, which is really good. Didn't want to do that. There we go. The other thing with doing them all in scenes as well is I can show when we go to set up buttons, which we'll do straight after I do this. Actually, we'll do the grid button so you can see how that all works. Alright, so that's that done. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So what we need to do from here is we'll add in a couple of buttons. Call this one grid. What we want to do with that is actually we're going to toggle widget availability of grid. Pretty straightforward. When you click on it, you want the grid to pop up. But what we want to do as well, we want another button. Grid advance. Which means that when we click it, we'll show the next 6 drivers. What we want to do with that, we go into actions. We don't want to change the widget visibility, we want to change data source. We want to increment the data. This is where making sure you name all your sub widgets properly can help you out. All we want to do is update the widget grid. We're going to add 6 places. Now that should work. Now the other thing you want to do with this is you want to add another data source. You want to go in and set grid back to 0 so that it's set up when you click it, resets back to nothing. So we will save, export the theme, and helps if I can spell. And we'll go and we'll find another session to jump in and we'll test him out. But I'm fairly sure I've made that right. Sometimes you do have to go in and individually adjust the data source to increment each sub widget, but I'm fairly sure this should work. But we'll test it out. Look at that, VAT Americas is on, so we'll do that. What we'll do as well, we might just add a button as well. My favourite button I love to add. Good old hide all button. Sorry about the stream, I think it's glitching a little bit, lagging a little bit, but not sure as to why. It's a bit strange. Don't usually have issues with it, but anyway. So I hope this is helping in some aspects for some guys. I know that ATVO is a bit of a complex looking piece of gear, but once you get the hang of it, it actually is quite straightforward and makes a lot of sense. Here Sound come through and just scared the absolute shit out of me. May actually see some team info come up as well, so just open ATVO. So here's the theme that we just made when it loads up. And it hasn't got the hide button in there that we had. But you can see we've already got the team data come across as well. Nice and easy. And if I now click grid, grid's now hidden. Click grid again, click grid plus, and there it goes. The next 8 drivers all come up straight away. Oh, sorry, the next 6 drivers. So just from doing that little click, it's added the next 6. So that's how you do an advancement in your little thing. I set it up so that I do it as I'm ready, because some races you've got a bit more time to talk about, and other races you've got no time to talk about. You could probably set it up as a ticker and set it so that it would be on time. I prefer to click on it individually, because if I've missed something as well, I'll go through, but it's very, very important to have that reset as well. But yeah, actually advancing your grid, really, really piss easy. So that's how you do that. So I hope that helps in that aspect. For those that want to see how much work and effort actually goes into a full set of overlays, this is our control section that we have for Premier Series on our old overlays. Our new ones that I'm sort of working on at the moment will have bucket loads more on it. So I'll load it up so you can have a look as to how it all works and looks. There's all the graphics that we've got. So on here, I'll show that how to do commentator's entry. This is Asai's dream, is to be a commentator. Look at that, I've just made him one. So that's how we've got that working. We've got all different sorts of graphics. We actually have race control message as well. So I can do this on the fly. So when I get a message from race control, I can just copy it, paste it across, and it comes up through that as well. I've also got pit lane battles as well, so I can actually show battles between 2 different drivers as they're about to make their pit stop. We've got a driver that we're focused on, and I've got another driver as well. So if I've got a driver that's in the pits, so say in this example I've got Mike who's in the pits, and Peter Simons was on the track, I could show him, but it also would still be counting Mike's pit stop time at the same time. I also have the little mini qualifying lap ones that we use on the side as well, which have been really, really handy, and having the delete options as well has been pretty crucial as well. So, but yeah, and there you can see with the actual logos as well, got the Holden and Ford logos added in for this one. But yeah, so that's how that all works. So hope that sort of makes a bit of sense. That's how we do that stuff. Alright, so what would everyone like to see next? If that sort of helps, I hope it does anyway. I'll show you how to get the input working. We'll do that now. So now that we've got the grid side of it sorted, do commentators widget. This one we do a little bit differently again, so we make sure we pick the right data set once again. So I'll just set up this sub widget and then I'll explain what we actually need to do to get the right information into it. So commentators, we want the data set to be none of these ones. We want to go down a little bit further. We've got input controls. So we're going to now go in here, add a label, go into data, and our data bindings is now input 1, which is that input control that we've got sitting here. It's called input 1. So now that I've got that there, I can actually set this to show the exact information that we've got and typed into that box, which will be whoever we've got commentating in that session. Previously in ATVO, we used to have to pre-make that graphic and stick it in the folder and have to do it all on the fly, but now this way we can just type it in on the go, which is really cool for doing all different sorts of things. As I showed there before, we can add the race control messages or whatever you want to have in there, which I really like. So that's how that all works. Anyone want to see anything else, or does that sort of explain a few more things to anyone? Or whoever's there might want to get some more info on something else. I think everything else from there is fairly straightforward. Obviously you can do scripting and things like that, but I have no idea how to do any of that or add any info in from that, but I've sort of shown the basics on how to I'm hoping a few people actually will watch it and learn a few things, and we might see some real creative stuff come out from the community, which is the overall plan, to actually make things look nice and cool within the iRacing community, because there's some really cool broadcasts out there at the moment that could really do with a nice little bit of love in regards to their graphics section. So hopefully if you guys get some inspiration and actually get out there and have a crack and do some themselves, because I'd love to see some more really cool looking broadcasts. They've got really good picture quality, but their graphics on screen just really let them down. So hopefully we see some more come out soon. Just trying to find the right graphic that I'm looking for. That one. There we go. It's nearly been 2 hours of me talking. It might nearly be time for me to shut up for a little bit. Maybe. Unless you guys have got something more that you want me to do. Stream's really starting to play up too, which is really annoying. But I think from what I've shown in here, this is pretty much all the things that you'd ever need to do. Shows how to create a grid, advance a grid, create the buttons to make it all advance properly, and all that sort of stuff, which I think is all you really need to have. Obviously having a driver, a control, making sure you pick the right data set is the most important thing. Whether you're going to use the sim data that's live or whether you're using theme data, or a driver picker as well, which I'll quickly show. Controls. Oh, one thing I will show, I'll show videos quickly and events. Driver picker, if you can have that, and then when you go in, you can actually pick the data from that driver picker, so it will show the data that's relevant to that driver that you've just picked the data from. Now I can see the stream's back working properly again, so I'll do that now. I'll do event triggers. So what we'll do first, we'll add in 2 event triggers. One will be for live and one will be for replay. And we'll also add in 2 videos. Chart live and replay. What we want to do from that is we want, when there's an event of replay, we want to play a video, which is play, replay. So whenever we go to a replay, we want it to play our little replay video. What we want to do when we go live, we want it to play our little video that says live. Didn't set the trigger up for the other, so I'll do that as well. Easy as that. As soon as I click, now when I go into, I'll quickly export this again. Go back into that iRacing session that we just made, or we're just watching, I should say. We didn't make it a session, we were watching a session. It's rather annoying that the stream's been buffering a fair bit, but at least it's working. So I'll just jump back into that V8 section we were watching just before, and we'll make sure that those videos are working properly. The other option you can do too, what I tend to do with my buttons is I color code my buttons and match them all up together into different sections, so all my buttons all correspond together via the same color, which you can see from one of the other ones I use here. So all my buttons together are all the same color. You can actually place an image behind there as well, use images there to make everything all neat and make sense, but I prefer to color code everything because I think it makes it a little bit easier to quickly see on the fly when you need another button of similar style and you don't end up with the wrong section. So I've color coded everything and keep that fairly standard across all my themes. I'll just load up ATVO again. There's our theme we were just working on. Actually, we don't want that yet because I didn't export it. So that didn't work. Just close it and go again. Make sure it actually works. Didn't work. It's alright. I do need to configure my controller. I don't have one plugged in. My controller I have is a keyboard and mouse. Maybe I should race with them. That's pretty much how you do everything anyway. I'll bring up another theme and we'll show you how it all sort of comes together. Good dive bomb there. Almost paid off. So weird watching the Americas race. I know no one in the race anymore. There's obviously heaps of other things that you can do as well in regards to teams racing and things like that. So this one here is the one we use for Monday Night V8s. This one's been really, really poorly set up because I don't actually have the hide triggers all set up properly. So I've got overlays that stack on top of each other the whole way through. So I haven't done a very, very good job of that. So I do need to remake these and make them all work properly, so I'll do that one day. But one thing I'll show you is when I actually want to go to a replay video will come up. So I actually have a media player that you can test with as well to make sure that your videos or your graphics all work properly as well. Same as we had before as well with that starting grid one that we did. I've got the mini leaderboard set up the exact same way, except I only update positions 2, 3 and 4. So I've just set up the sub widget to update as we go through. So that's that. But the grid that I've got set up, still got the old grid that we had set up, and I'll just move all 4. Results are exactly the same, got them set up in the exact same way, so they just trigger move 10 at a time. And the tickers as well set up exactly the same as we've done in the other setup we had. Also have one for starting position as well, which you don't really use too much. And then the small ticker, which is set up exactly the same as we had before. We've got the weather set up with the 2 different data sets together again, same as we did. You can see there the tightening up of the names as well to make it fit in the actual box. So that's all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. There's a lot that you can do. The more you play around with it, the more you learn. So I think that's probably the key to it all. Has anyone got anything else they want me to go through before I wrap it up? As I said at the start, it really comes down to what your preference is, whether you want to design all your graphics before you start, or whether you want to do them on the fly and just have all your individual widgets cut out to the right size or to their size, or whether you wanted to determine them, have them all set up and create it in Photoshop for the right size. It really comes down to what your preference is. All ours are already done in the right size, and we've made them fit and work together before we've imported them into ATVO. So that's the way that we've done it, and it works for us. What works for us may not work for you, and how you design and build your overlays could be completely different to how I do it, but this is the way I do it, and this is the way I've learnt myself. So Before I wrap it up, I want to thank the guys at ATVO. They've done an awesome job creating some awesome software for the community. The old overlay software, IRTVO, was getting very, very clunky, old, and really, really unstable, and I actually found I couldn't get it to work at all on Windows 10. It worked fine on Windows 7, but as soon as I got my new computer on Windows 10, I couldn't make it work at all. So thanks to the guys for actually making this really, really work really, really well. So yeah, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully it helps explain a few things. If you ever got questions, you can always ask me. I'm more than happy to help out. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all on track. Thanks.